So I've done fire, water, and earth. So I figured it just kind of makes sense to end this little quadrilogy with a with one more video talking about the Avatar characters in the old world. Now, while I talked about the Fire Nation and Air Nomads as like, could they conquer the world or could they like survive and battle in it, the Water Tribe was more of, hey, I know the Water Tribe isn't like a militaristic group when it's not under Unalaq. So what would it be like if they had to survive there? Obviously, like talking about making an alliance with Kislev, and probably their biggest competitor would be the Nords. Probably be the big one. And a few other like trades with dwarves and whatnot, like having trade with other nations. So it came down to one last nation to talk about what that be like if they existed in Warhammer: The Old World, and that is, excuse me, and that is the Air Nomads. The Air Nomads were, like I said, the last of this quadrilogy. And since I just finished the Primarch Korra trilogy, which I didn't plan on making a trilogy to begin with, but here we are. Yeah, so here we are finishing that story. Here we are finishing this one, which I was like, after doing Fire Nation and Earth Empire, I was like, yeah, I think the next one I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do Water and Air next. So this is one I've been planning to do for a little bit. Anyway. Let's get started. So what would it be like if the Air Nomads existed in Warhammer: The Old World? Now, to put into perspective, we're going to have all of the Air Nomads. We're going to have... we're not going to have... The only one we're not going to have is Aang. And because I might... Nah, probably not. Because I was thinking about, could the Avatar bring balance to Warhammer: The Old World? The answer is no. There's no fucking way. That world blew... yeah. There's no fucking way, so... The only one we're not going to have is Aang. The rest of the Air Nomad Nation, they're going to be still here. So the 4 temples exist out in mountains. The north, south, east, and west Air Nomad temples are going to be like high in the mountains and pretty hard to get to. Now the Air Nomads aren't militaristic. They aren't, they don't have a standing army. They're monks. Their whole thing is like to pray and care for others. So if they were out in the world, like if they existed in Warhammer: The Old World, they would be kind of like a neutral faction. I think to myself. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that they'd probably be a pretty neutral faction. But that's not to say they wouldn't have friends. The Air Nomads are really kind at they're really kind. They're also good at recognizing what's good and what's evil. And also, don't mistake to quote the edgelord quote, don't mistake kindness for, weakness. Because Air Nomads, remember, there was a reason Sozin had to wait for the comet to invade the Air Nomad temples. Because Air Nomads are pretty fucking powerful. Some of them could just suck the air out of your lungs if they thought that way. So yeah, the Air Nomads can defend themselves, but they aren't warriors. They do know how to fight, but they don't have a standing army, so they would have to depend on someone else to protect them in times of need. Now, we don't know why, the Air Nomads were pretty solitary, but you can't do that in Warhammer: The Old World. So the Air Nomads would probably, if they existed in this world, they'd probably be looking for people, they'd probably be like, oh no, we don't fight, we don't do that, but we'll give you herbs and let you stay here for a bit, And I do think they'd be seen as a religious practice. While everyone wouldn't be an airbender, there probably would be normal people who would want to go to the Air Nomad temples to pray and learn how to be an air acolyte, learn the ways of the learn the ways of the Air Nomad, shave their heads, get the arrow tattoos. The nations I do see could probably be the ones who would be closest to allies in terms of hey, you guys are a pretty neat religion and you guys have, given us food and shelter, we're going to watch your backs. I would say Cathay would probably be their closest ally. I do think Cathay, their mythology and the Air Nomad mythology kind of intersects almost. outside of the dragon fucking, but that's more meme than anything else. So I do see Cathay as like someone's like, well, we got your backs. But also I wouldn't put it past not Bretonia, but the Empire of Man and the dwarves, even the elves would be like, yeah, you guys are cool. Like, that's the thing, is that the air nomads would be more, like, while they wouldn't participate in fighting in wars, I do see that air nomads would go to battlefields, tend to the sick, tend to the wounded, you know, give food, but they would be like, hey, we're not warriors, and we will not, you know, fight for you, but we will give you things. Now, not every nation in the almost said Earth Empire, the Empire of Man is going to be cool with that. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of them will be like, you know, you're cowards and we'll take your land by force. But that's going to change, because I'm pretty sure Califrons would be like, the first person who attacks these nice people gets Gallimaraz to the face. So the air nomads would be not so much in like a warrior ally, but more like they'd be giving their religious support, you know, food, you know, water, resources, you know, places to like, because I think even the air nomads, while they the monks believe in, you know, do no harm, I think they would realize, oh, chaos, Skaven, orcs, dark elves, this is a pretty brutal world. Like, that's the one thing I think the air nomads would understand, is that these creatures, the Skaven, the Archaon, and the servants of chaos, the chaos gods themselves, the orcs, the chaos dwarves, the dark elves, those races are pure evil. So I think they would be like, I'm not going to feel bad in the morning for killing all of you. But at the same time, they're also not going to be seeking out active war, like against vampires or anything else. But if there is war, I think they would give refuge to, like, the elves, the dwarves, the humans, the non-corrupted kind humans, I should state. So I think they would be... And also, it's really hard to get up those mountains. Like, it took a lot, according to some sources in Avatar lore, it took a lot for the Fire Nation soldiers to get up those mountains when they were exterminating the Air Nomad Nation. So it's a pretty hard climb if you don't have, like, blimps or what, which some do, but, like, it's hard to scale mountains is what I'm saying. It's a pretty tough thing, and like I said, the Air Nomads didn't raise no bitches. So, yeah. It would be, so they would, and we did see during, even when they were fighting Fire Nation soldiers who were souped up on Sozin's Comet, they held their own. I mean, did you see Gyatso and those mountains of bodies he left behind? Yeah. So like I said, these guys would not be a race that would be seeking war, but be ready for battle, and also know who to, like, rub shoulders with in terms of, like, hey, can you come help us? We've done nothing wrong. And the Empire of Man, or the dwarves, or the elves, or, like I said, any of those races, or even, like I said, even Cathay would be like, oh yeah, we got your back. I could even see, like, maybe even the Air Nomads would encounter the Tomb Kings and be like, hello. And they'd be like, and fucking Cetra would be like, you know who I am? And he's like, yeah, you're Cetra the Imperishable. You know, you've got so many titles, but we welcome you. And Cetra would be like, I feel bad for, it'd be like kicking a puppy. I'm not to say the Tomb Kings would rush to the Air Nomads' aid, but I could almost see the Tomb Kings being like, it's not worth it. Like, you have no value to us, except your mountains. But even then, it's so few and far between. That's more of a joke for any diehard Tomb King fans out there. Tomb King fan myself, but, like, that's more of a joke than anything else. The one race I think would be the most dangerous to them is the Skaven, since they're capable of like, scaling mountains, and they don't give a shit about religious practices or anything else. They care about just killing. So the Skaven, and I think even the Orcs, would be the two biggest enemies of the Air Nomads. Furthermore, there's no. The other thing is, the Air Nomads are so spiritually connected to the universe. There's no way they can be, like, there is nothing that the Chaos Gods can offer them to corrupt them. And I know what you're going to say. What about the one guy Zahir talks about? Yeah, whatever. He was more of an extremist than anything else. So that's an exception to the rule. So I don't really see, you know, an air nomad falling to chaos. And even if they did, it'd be like 1 out of 100. So the chances of that are really slim, is what I'm saying. But yeah, so there you go, guys. That's what I think would happen if the air nomads existed in Warhammer the Old World. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you think it would be like if the air nomads existed in Warhammer the Old World? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.